These are the 9 things we want to see out of Spyro. Was it Realm? Hold on, I don't remember the name.
Realm Reborn?
Beyond.
I have a little bit of Realm Reborn.
Realm Beyond. I was going to say Realm Reborn.
Looking for
That's
this
why.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. These are the 9 things we at Crub want out of Spyro A Realm Beyond. Welcome to this week's edition of the CRUBCAST, your weekly dose of controlled chaos here in podcast form, and every week we find a way to make it worse. My name's Kevin. I'm here with the 2 Spyro-pilled Crubbers who have done 32 hours worth of Spyro content on our Patreon. We have Brody here. Hi, Brody.
Bombs. Remember that?
And I don't think we can open an episode with that. And we have Chris here as well. Hi, Chris.
I've always been wanted to be known as the guy who did 32 hours of Spyro content.
Well, now you have your wish. So, as we've all probably seen, I would hope if you didn't already see, then surprise, there's a new Spyro game that was announced. We have exactly 4 seconds of footage of it outside of cutscenes. And we have a lot of things to say about it. So we each put a list together. There may be some overlap here as well. But things we want to see from Spyro, things we're maybe afraid to see or want to see not be the case. And we're just going to kind of throw it around and see what we come with. These aren't things we necessarily think will happen. These are things we want to happen. So these may be very unrealistic. And that's fine because, the game that we don't get is always better than the game that we do. So I will kick it off first here with a really obvious one that I think we'll all agree with. I don't want the game to rely too much on nostalgia or nostalgic characters or references. I want there to be an identity that is built. Wow.
That was my second and also kind of fourth desire in a way. Yeah.
Let's go.
Oh, I'm right there.
I got it all in one. I like the immediate thought that you both had was, I don't see Sparks here. Where's Sparks? And
I didn't
that
even
was a
notice.
fair point.
I'm not going to lie. It wasn't until someone was like, "Hey, where's Sparks?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I guess he's not there, huh?"
Oh, maybe it was Brody. It might have been Brody. Just
I noticed it, and then I saw other people were noticing it, and it's just like it could very easily be that this is alpha footage. He's just not there yet,
or the villain abducted Spyro,
or they have a health bar,
or
honestly, in lieu of Sparks, whatever it could be.
Not too much nostalgia, huh, Kevin?
I am nostalgic for specifically Spyro 1. I enjoy Spyro 2. I've still not played Spyro 3. I don't like Sergeant Bird's vibe. But I have a video on my channel that many of you may have seen where we talked about Spyro 1 and like why there's nothing quite like it in the gaming space with that game's unique energy in that early-ish 3D era and that game's design philosophy. And from the moment that this started getting rumored, I thought more and more about it, and I don't think I want more Spyro 1. I think you can only do so much Spyro 1, and I think that design philosophy, the thing that we crave now, is the same thing that would have been seen as boring in 1999 with Spyro 2. I think if you're just doing a Spyro, greatest hits for Spyro 4, you run the risk of boring people. I'm sure that they want to give it its own identity. They want to start probably their own trilogy of some sort. Obviously, company wants to make games and wants to get paid to make games. But in short, I think, if we load it up with all the nostalgic characters and then, Ripto's in it or, whomever that gets cucked to show off the new villain, I think I think it just runs the risk of being seen just as a greatest hits tour with a couple new songs here and there. And I know Spyro has had a bunch of different sagas that have tried to change things, mostly to not great success.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want those things. I want something closer to a new vision for Spyro that still pays homage to the original trilogy, rather than just doing a Crash 4, which is for Crash sickos. Like, Crash 4 is the game every Crash fan always said they wanted, and then it was too hard for them.
Hey, I love that game on PS5. I love that game when it runs well. That game, Crash 4, honestly, I think I am a little bit opposite-ended. Not necessarily, because I know what you're saying. But in terms of the representation of the original trilogy, like, I do want those... gameplay is a different story. I want those classic characters back. At the very least, like, Hunter and Moneybags feel as essential to the formula as, like, Sparks to me. So I think that core group, it would be very nice to see Elora, Bianco, Spyro's shitty friends from 3. That I like them, but I love calling them that. It's very funny to me. I would like to see them. I don't know that I want to play as them, but I would like to see them just kind of like, be around. I think it's we have an interesting trio here because we have, I think, Kevin, you probably hold 1 in the most high regard, given that you haven't played 3 and 2 is 2. I hold 2. I love 2 the best, and I know Chris likes 3 the best. So it's going to be an interesting mix here. I'm interested to hear what you have then to say there, Chris, because I think I do want the characters back. I'm willing to see their new gameplay vision, but if this is going to be a continuation of the original continuity, which I would hope that it is,
Seems
and
like
not a new 4th thing, a new 4th franchise, because my God.
I'll say, it's, before we throw to Chris, it's not that I don't want those characters there. It's that I don't want them to be simply there as nostalgia. I definitely don't want them to be playable in the first game back. I think you need to focus on just the thing that works there, and it's the Spyro gameplay. Find ways to make that unique and interesting before you do the sequel-y thing of adding different gimmicks and characters and things that are seen as too tropey now. I'm fine with the characters being there. I just think if everything is, oh man, this is just like Green Hill Zone, at a point it gets tiring.
And I agree from that perspective.
Yeah. Chris, what are your thoughts? Because you said this was 2 of your points here.
That's me. Okay. So my first main point, I think what I'm saying is what both of you are actually basically saying. You don't want the characters shoved in just for the sake of being shoved in, effectively, put bluntly, right? Like from the description, this is gets Spyro 2 sucked into a new world and has to save things there. So if you get 2 hours in and suddenly it's like, oh, Hunter's here now because he figured out how to get through the portal. And then 2 hours later, it's like, oh, Elora's here. It might start to feel a little, why did we go somewhere new if we're not going to really commit to it? But at the same time, it's been 26 years since when I consider the last actual appearance of a lot of these characters. Like I know Hunter was in A Hero's Tale and stuff, but I mean, 26 years is a really long time to not have anything new with these characters. And then to maybe wait 4 years of game development for the next game that would actually have them. And that would feel a little rough. So if like they all get sucked into the portal and it like makes sense narratively that they're running around, fine. But I just don't want it to feel too nostalgia baity to Kevin's end. And I think we're probably both in that. I don't want this to be too beholden to tradition though. I don't, like, there's going to be underwater sections, I imagine, right? That's like the one thing they didn't really mention in the very little they've said. I don't need it to feel like the old games are reignited water controls just because that's Spyro. Like, I am very okay with looking at stuff like that and going like, all right, we can do something better. We can do something more interesting. This doesn't have to be PS1 Spyro underwater controls just because those games did that and this is a sequel to that. I would say probably the only things I really need to feel like the original are probably the general running and gliding feeling. If gliding even still matters in this game, I guess it might. But to then branch out from that, I also don't want them to get too nostalgia-y in terms of Spyro minigames. I don't want this to be, oh, the trolley's a meme. We need to have a trolley section and a bird will go, oh, looks like you're having trouble with the trolley. I don't need cowlick herding just because Spyro 2 had cowlick herding. Like, I don't need to be pointing and going like, oh, it's that barely tolerable mini game from when I was 6.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Is I think you definitely do want the characters there at least for a moment to say, hey, we didn't forget. Otherwise, you get people that assume you forgot just because you didn't include a thing, and it's not that you didn't choose to. You know, clearly it has to be that you forgot.
Even if it's like in the beginning cutscene, like they do with Spyro 3 a little bit, where they're like, hey, these guys are here. We're gonna leave now, but they are here. They did. You know what I mean?
That's something.
It's something. Or in Spyro 3 again, where at the end of it, it goes, oh, here's Elora. Here's what she wasn't involved, but she's checking in. I think even if it's like a bookend thing like that, just to know those characters are around. Because one thing that I really like that Crash 4 did, despite being like, oh, it's taking place after Crash 3, Wrath of Cortex, Twinsanity, all that stuff maybe didn't happen. But then they're in the post credits, they were like, oh, here's Nina Cortex from Twinsanity. Like she still exists within this continuity, and that was a nice thing to see as someone who likes those games, likes those characters. that's where I'm wondering what they'll end up doing if they're taking any kind of Crash 4 direction with this game, because it's like there's not really new characters introduced in Enter the Dragonfly, so that doesn't matter. Hero's Tale like tries, but as we've seen, they have like 2 dragons show up for literally a cutscene each, and then we never see them or hear about them ever again. And for some reason, they have a weird like section of the fan base that loves them, but like that happens.
And no fan base for the puking mermaid lady. I don't get that one.
Right. I think, and this goes into a little bit of my apprehension with specifically Toys for Bob and their history with Spyro and everything like that. I am gearing up for for Cinder to be retconned into the main continuity. But
the horror. You sound like an old school Sonic fan who's like, they're just going to do stuff with Shadow. I just feel like it. That nasty Shadow from the new games. It's exactly the same energy, Brody. I'm sorry. She's going to be in there. She's going to matter. Just accept it. Swallow that pill now. And if it's not now, it'll be the next one.
Here's the thing. Here's where I'm at with it. Right. I am far past old man yells at Cloud with this. I'm not going to say that they shouldn't do this. What I'm saying is I don't want Cinder to be there in lieu of classic characters. I am okay with her being there alongside, right? And I fully expect that to kind of maybe be the case. For the people that want that, for the Legends freaks out there, for the Skylanders freaks, like that is the rope I'm willing to give. Is sure she can.
And Stealth Elf from Skylanders.
I will
the central character. On the box
I will do a real homicide.
So, I think we're all broadly, in agreement about a lot of that. Besides whatever weird shit Brody just said, I kind of blacked out.
I don't know what a Cinder is. I don't know. I can't relate.
So that's my first point. My first thing is don't rely on nostalgia. I want to see an identity, because if you're just playing the hits for a company that you weren't part of, for a company that most of your developers are probably younger than Spyro,
and you already remade their games also.
Yeah, and that I don't want to see that necessarily. I think take a risk, take a leap. Brody, what's your first? What's your first point? Which one do you want to throw out first? What's your first idea?
I'll say that because I already kind of touched on the characters things. I've kind of split it up in my head between like the story and writing versus like the gameplay aspects of it. So I think I'll go to the gameplay, which is that like, given what we've seen and what we know exists within the context of free flight and all of that stuff, what I don't want to see is for this to just become a flying game. I would like it to still have like the bits of platforming that makes Spyro, the original trilogy, like special and unique. I don't think it needs to be in that exact way, like we have said, but I do think like I enjoy the aspect of routing, like seeing something in the distance and going like, how do I get there? Let me figure out the route in my head, even if it's not immediately like A to B obvious. I might have to do some like spatial reasoning, like puzzling. I love that. And the glide is very intrinsic to that, where get up to a high spot, then I can go around this corner where I can't exactly see where I'm going, so I kind of have to intuit and know that I'm going to get where I want to be. And that's the kind of stuff I love. I don't want the free flight to basically mean that doesn't exist. But I also think there are so many ways that you can have your cake and eat it too with this, and I think we are seeing some of that. We don't know specifically what it is. So what I've sort of written out is like, I think in terms of what would work is there's like a 2-pronged approach. And I think they're actually going with a third one, but the 2 that I've laid out are, I think we could see like, and these are ones that I would be cool with, is I think we could see like a Breath of the Wild stamina meter where you can glide whenever you want, but if you're flying, that's using up stamina. So maybe if you're ascending, that's using up stamina, because obviously it was rumored that this game might have light RPG elements. That's a leak that's neither here nor there. We don't really know the validity of that, but like, if that's true, I could see it being that you're upgrading your stamina meter so that by the end of the game, you do have something more akin to a full free flight. But throughout the like beginning of it, you're having to use your environmental cues we saw he created a fire, used the updraft, and then went through like a speed ring in the air. And so I think having you have to rely on that, at least in the early game, makes sense to me, because it allows you to still have that classic gliding, like spatial reasoning stuff, but still it gives you the ability to, where the designers want you to be going more up in the air and doing stuff like that, they can do that without giving you full access to free flight in a way that undermines all of the challenge. I think the other way we might see that happen is something.
I want to break down what you said before you go to the other way.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we noticed pretty quickly with the trailer was the opening cinematic. This might mean nothing, but the opening cinematic is in a desert area that seems reminiscent of the desert barons from Spyro 1. He's not flying in that section, and there's no brush in that section. So one of the thoughts that we had pretty quickly was, what if there are levels that are designed in such a way that you don't have brush there? Maybe not brush there yet. Maybe you can plants can spawn, Zelda style, where like you bring a seed over and that spawns a plant that you can then set on fire, which is kind of rude, to then fly and gain a little bit of extra flight, or to trigger your updraft. And to the second point, I think I like the idea of it being a Breath of the Wild styled stamina meter, because then you can break the game in your own way, in your own by being creative. And so, it's the Mario design philosophy of, maybe instead of putting coins somewhere where someone got with a out of bounds playtest thing, they reward you by saying, oh, there's a stamina boost there. And maybe you don't track those until later in the game, so that, oh, now I have more stamina, so I can start breaking the game a little bit more and more in that Mario Odyssey sort of way. And I think both of those are really compelling concepts, because it leads to some really cool game design and visual design approaches if they are avoiding a lot of waist high grass or whatever, so that you can't updraft too much.
And I think ultimately we don't want this being Superman 64. I think is the main thing. We don't want yourself. It to turn into that. The other thing I thought of is similar to the idea that you said with the desert, is I think we might see areas that are like no fly zones, in a way that is like the floodless levels in Super Mario Sunshine, where you don't have flood. Or honestly, what might make more sense is areas of the game that are kind of like in Breath of the Wild when it's raining and you can't really climb because it's raining. So that level is designed a bit more about the fact that you're going to be on the ground. And so I think we could see things like that. I think there's evidence within the trailer that we're seeing things like that.
That's a cool idea, because you could do the rain already stops you from setting stuff on fire, and also you're a lightning rod if you're flying.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that it has to be specifically rain, but yeah, absolutely. I think
just with that one example, that's a really cool one. Or if something with ice, you could easily do that, because it's too cold. Spyro can't, flood fire to go higher.
You could also imagine some jungle Jimmy kind of areas, like Dark Passage from Spyro 1, where it's like maybe there's an open area here and there, but there's a lot of more enclosed, narrow spaces that doesn't make sense to fly in, but there can still be Spyro platforming within. There's room for that.
And then the thing that I've vaguely heard, because information has been coming out little by little since this has happened, and there's the whole leakers saying they were right all the time, whatever, but some details have maybe come out about how it's actually going to be momentum based.
Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yeah, well, so the idea is, in order to get updraft, you need the speed to do it. And so getting the speed from the flame updraft, or the speed ring in the air that gives you the boost or whatever, that will allow you to go higher. So maybe not even a stamina meter kind of thing, but literally these objects will allow you to go higher, and then you will continue to glide down from there. But there are just so many objects around that could give you boost that, the designers can play with that. I think that's really interesting, because that's something I didn't consider, but looking at the trailer, if that is anything resembling finalized footage in terms of UI, and there is no stamina or anything there, that's an interesting thought, I think.
Yeah. Chris, what are your thoughts on all of that 4 points that Brody made?
Hey, sounds great. No,
hey, it's listed as 1 right here in my notes.
Yeah, this is you at the same time. Everything sounds good. I guess I would mostly just respond in saying I'm very curious to see what they do, and that does sound interesting. I think at a point, Spyro's identity to a lot of people who maybe don't love the games as much was those are just mini games, and eventually you play a lot of side characters that aren't even Spyro, and then there's some Spyro stuff in it, right? I feel like Spyro kind of lost its identity, maybe is the way to put it, or just didn't have that solid of an identity back then. And I've been looking at reactions to this new game, and I've seen so many people be like, no, keep it the old way. I don't want to fly. I don't want this to be a flying game. And then some people said, I don't want there to be much of a focus on flying either way. And I'm like, this feels like the time to like actually give Spyro its own identity and like actually forge a path that makes sense to make more Spyro games in. I think if you went back to like just running around and gliding like the old games, I think it just would be kind of disappointing. So I'm hoping that whatever they do here, like I'm not a game designer. It's hard for me to sit and be like, oh, they should do this or that. But I think all of that would make for an interesting game that there's not a lot of other games like. I can't think of many other flying games that are really momentum based, right? I feel like you get rail shooters or I don't know, Superman 64, I guess, where you can just fly no matter what. So I think mostly what I want to take away from this is like, oh, they swung for something new here and it worked. Like that's my real
and it worked is really like the clincher, right? It's like you can swing for new, but Spyro's been swinging for new for 20 years and it's never really worked. If you can make it work, that's awesome.
I don't even know that I care that it works. I'll say it. I think swinging for something new with an inspired follow-up on the original trilogy's ideas, even if it ends up being just okay, is still a compelling base, assuming that they were then able to get another game. And given how the Reignited trilogy sold, as long as this doesn't have a bunch of AI in it, I think they're in pretty decent shape to do pretty okay with this, considering it's coming out on all platforms.
It'll be interesting, even if it's bad.
Yeah, if it's like a 7 or 8 out of 10 type game, there's still a lot you can dig it. Like 7 out of 10 games are the best games a lot of the time because there's so many cool ideas that you can then, take some time to imagine what if they're done in a better way. And that's some of the most enjoyable parts of thinking about games to me, and I think to a lot of people, that you have the chance to here's what I would do, Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah, interviews have been pretty sparse on this, and knowing our luck, by the time this episode is actually uploaded, there will probably be much more clarification because I think content
30 minutes
creators
of gameplay unedited.
Yeah, I think content creators and press have like talked to the Toys for Bob leads, but a lot of what Paul Yan, the studio heads, has said, filtered through PR, of course, but it gives me some hope. It sounds like they're like, we don't just want to make another Spyro game. We want to take what works and actually do something new with it. And that to me is probably the most exciting thing I could have heard because, 6-year-old me would take a Spyro 4 that's like those old games, but I'm 32. I'm going to be 33 when this is out. I already shouldn't be playing Spyro games anymore. You know what I mean?
Oh, we're going to be playing so many more? So many more. I think if done right, this really genuinely, though, could be Spyro's Breath of the Wild moment. Like, I think this could end up being a 10 out of 10 if they do it right. I don't know that, like, I have the utmost 100% faith in them to do that, but I see the potential.
I'm going to say my next hope.
Yeah, yes.
Unless you had a really good one.
No, I was going to throw to you after saying I don't know that I don't expect a 10 out of 10 game here.
I think you'd be a Brody 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Mine, I guess this is actually in the same vein. Maybe I just have the same thought presented in 5 different ways. But the music. I think when people talk about Spyro, it's the music. I think if they had Stewart Copeland, that would have been part of that press release because it's Stewart Copeland, like one of the most recognizable, unique composers, in popular music. So if you had him, I think you'd say you got him. I don't want someone to come in and be like, well, I guess I got to sound like him because that's a very unique style. That's, the Spyro style is the Stewart Copeland style. Like he didn't do something new for Spyro. He just did his stuff in Spyro. I don't want someone to come in and try to ape that or mimic it because I think it's just going to give me a sensation of like, he's got the instruments, the drumming is maybe weird and off kilter, but it just won't feel right. So I what I want and hope for is at least that something that when I walk away from the game, I still remember it. And I'm like, okay, it was catchy motifs, or it was at least like unique, or there was something to it. Like if someone can come in and ape that style perfectly, fantastic. That's the dream, I guess. But
it's my number.
I'd rather have something unique that doesn't land than like a pale imitation.
I fear that we will get neither, to be honest. This is my number one like point of contention when it comes to this. If the composer who did all of the reignited music is the one on staff for this, I am genuinely scared. And I can be hyperbolic sometimes with a lot of my other points regarding this, but this one in particular gets me because
shitless. You're like shaking in your boots. You're like splashing cold water in the mirror, like.
I really am, because I feel like the music is such is so much of Spyro's identity in that original bit, even in Enter the Dragonfly. Like, I'm playing that.
I mean, we shouted out Crazy Taxi. I feel like they're similar in that people will mention the music before any actual other thing from those games. When you mention Spyro, it's like, oh yeah, the music. Like that's point number one usually for most people.
If it's the reignited guy, like the versions that he did of those original songs, played without the whole dynamic thing going on where you can actually hear all the instruments. Like, they're not like the worst. I don't think that any one of them really surpasses the original Copeland version, but like, if that was the kind of music we were getting, I think that would be fine. I think I would be more than happy with that. My fear comes from this is getting in the weeds a little bit, but in the cutscenes, in the cutscenes in Reignited, they replaced the music wholesale. Like, they didn't try to like redo that specific unique cutscene music. They just like put in new songs entirely. It sounds like the most generic knockoff Disney schlock I've ever heard in my life. And there's only one of two really ways that I can reconcile that in my head, which is either that's all that guy is capable of if he's not using Copeland's music as a base, or that's what he thinks Spyro should sound like, and both of those are bad. So I don't know. I think I would be okay with it maybe having a different, unique kind of sound if we're not going to go for a Copeland direction, but I don't want it to sound like a DreamWorks Pixar Disney movie, like a you know, one of those movie tie-in games from like the 2000s that isn't very good, because that's what that music sounded like in Reignited in those cutscenes, and I don't think I could deal with that. I really don't.
I'll give the assistant composer, we'll call him, or the audio designer for the game itself, for the Reignited trilogy, more credit and suggest that there's a chance that you're hamstrung when you have to do your own rendition of Stewart Copeland's music. And that if you were able to not just do a straight remix of a song, and you still wanted to evoke that style in gameplay, not in cutscenes, I think that there's always a chance that this person is capable of that, especially since I'm looking at his work here. And for example, he did some of the Skylanders stuff. I think he did all the Skylanders stuff, actually, followed by Crash 4.
Crash 4 was okay. I liked the music in Crash 4. That was all right.
And at the same time as doing all of those and Reignited, he was doing several Call of Duty games. So this man had a lot of work at Toys for Bob when they were still under Activision, and now he has one thing to do. Yeah. So I think if you're able to devote your time to one game's soundtrack instead of 3 in a remake style, and then 4 other games that you're working on.
And that remake is 3 games on its own also.
That's what I was saying. It's like a remake of 3 games in the span of one game's production. Also, that game's crunchy as hell, so good luck. Like, we know, Brody, you were the one that broke a lot of the info about just how bad Spyro Reignited's production was, that by the end, the entirety of 3 was outsourced to a different company. So to that end, there's a chance that this is just you got to get it out and get to a new thing on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, that would, I guess, be the ideal. I am afraid, I guess, that's why I kind of like broke it down into like, it's either this is what he's capable of, or, and this is what I'm still maybe worried about, is that is what he thinks it should sound like. Like, he looks at Spyro and goes, oh, it should sound like a generic Disney movie.
I don't think any individual composer is out here saying, oh, I think it should sound like this, and not listening to the inspiration of one of the commonly considered greatest musicians of our time.
You would hope. You would hope.
I think it's more of an either there was a direction given, or there was a certain amount, or there was a certain amount of time.
Yeah. But ultimately,
I'll also hop in to defend this composer a little bit while we're rolling around in the mud of the weeds here. Some of those original Spyro cutscene tracks, Stewart Copeland was just in there going like, "Here's my organ sample," and Spyro 2. I'm like, look, it's iconic. I love it, but I mean, come on.
But it is like, so that's the thing, is I think it's like, I would be very happy. I will say I would be happy with a Copeland sound alike. I don't think that I'm of the same mind that it's like, oh, if we don't have him, I don't want that sound. I think that sound is
you
very
can like
Spyro.
hit on a lot of the common instruments he used, like percussionally and just like the weird like guitar stuff from like Spyro 1. Like I think you can evoke it. I just don't want someone to like strictly look at him compositionally and be like, I need to try to ape this too much. You know what I mean?
I mean, there's like Spyro fan musicians out there who have taken like that sound font that he used and made their own new songs and tracks and stuff with that. Obviously, with not just the sound font, they've added other things in as well. Yeah. I think a lot of that sounds really good.
And they had their entire life to make that, rather than a couple years on a production budget. This is the first album. This is the first album debate of you have your whole life to make your first album, and then you have a year to make the second.
Yeah, like I guess what I'd throw it to is like T-Lopes from Sonic Mania did a pretty good job of hitting the ballpark of classic Sonic music, but it isn't, even in the game about remixing those tracks, isn't always so beholden to that exact style. I think if someone could come in and do that, but with Spyro, A+.
Yes, exactly.
I just fear someone doing that and it not turning out well.
No, broadly, I think that's, I think I agree. And I think the worst case scenario, if the music's not great, then you just pull up a playlist of Spyro music and pick which one you want, which is what you're going to do anyway, Brody. So,
and that guy gets like an email of like a photo of his house sent to him, and we go, oh no, sorry, man.
So, all strong first points here, all strong first ideas of things we want from Spyro. I'll look at my second one because so I also wrote here Daxter, and I don't know why. So I'm going to move to my third one, but I do want Daxter in Spyro 4. I think that'd be really useful. I want an annoying companion. He can dance. Sparks? He can do little cool
everybody
moves,
look at his pants.
And he can yap while Spyro's like, he can be like, focus, Spyro. I think that'd be really useful. And
focus
helpful.
S.
The other thing to your audio design thoughts, Chris, I would like Tom Kenny to try.
yeah, that would be nice. That would be very nice.
You want to talk about being on a time crunch? There's a good chance that they had him in a booth for one day, and he did all of the trilogy for Reignited, and that was his 3 hours of work. And that's I know that he's older. I know that he probably sounds more tired even as SpongeBob. There's only so many times you can do that before you punch yourself in the throat too much and don't have an Adam's apple anymore. But he did not sound interested at any point in the Spyro Reignited games, at least 1 and 2. Again, Sergeant Bird.
It's always been a question to me of whether that was him or that was the voice direction or what, because obviously he has the ability. Whether or not, he was phoning it in, that's another thing. But I think that there's some level of like, and this goes, again, like with the music thing, it's a tone thing. It is 100% a tone thing with the character writing, the character voice acting, and the music and all of that. I don't want Spyro to sound like a goody two-shoes that is just willing to help everyone all of the time. Like, I want him to be a little bit snarky. I want him to be a little bit sassy, a little bit sarcastic sometimes. He can still be helpful, but I don't want him to.
For. That's why.
Right. I don't want him to be like I'm so ready to help. I'm going to join the Galactic Rangers. Like, I don't want that. Don't give me that. Give me my snarky, sassy 90s mascot back. Like, that is,
You want to know some edge.
Not like a lot, not like a ton, because he's never had a ton, but just like that little bit of enough.
He's a little bit of a brat, especially in Spyro 1. He's talking back to his elders. He's got no respect, but now he's becoming an elder. He needs to learn. What do you use? Some kind of He's reaching new emotional depths, Brody, according to the marketing. I don't know what that means, and I'm kind of scared. I'm not going to lie.
I want this to be a revenge story, and then halfway through, you play as Cinder, you see the whole game from Cinder's perspective.
Right, you see Spyro's corpse and the camera pans up and she's like, what did they do? The newest threat. We have to stop them. I'm Cinder, the sexy one.
If there's no other thoughts, I mean, that's a pretty simple one with Tom Kenny trying. Let's go reverse order from here. So, Chris, what's your next one? What's your next thing you want from Spyro?
Boy, we accidentally covered like everything I had written down. I'd really like this Tubbs Spyro bath duct design to be an unlockable skin. I love co-brand and marketing, and I think being able to play as the rubber ducky Spyro would be a great pre-order bonus, and I'd probably pay like $30 for a digital deluxe edition that had that.
I
wish I was kidding, but we actually did cover like everything I had written down. So I really want
I think I want to die. Brody, what's your next thing
I'm
you
looking,
want from Spyro 4?
Yeah, I'm looking to see in terms of like what we didn't cover. I think vaguely I have said here that I would like the writing and humor to be in tone with the series at its best, or at the very least like Crash 4. Right? Like, Crash 4 was funny. Crash 4 was like in tone with the rest of that series, and like my cloaca, like that was.
I think
good
Crash
stuff.
4 tonally was better than the original saga. Honestly, like coming through Crash with only a slight bit of nostalgia, those games are kind of just 90s.
I mean, in so many
humor.
ways, it was the humor that they really picked up in Twinsanity, and like is also present in like Mind Over Mutant. They just were like, let's take that and really just go ham on that. And I would like to see more of that, if not just more of that. Yeah, that original kind of vibe. I don't want it to be over dramatic like the Legend series, and I don't want it to be over kiddie like Skylanders. I want it to hit that perfect tonal balance of like humor and like a little bit of stakes and all of that stuff. But mostly I think like, and this goes back to kind of what we were saying, I don't want it to be the original trilogy, but I want it to be the original trilogy bigger, more ambitious, more like give us that next thing. I have here like I don't see a world where we would have gotten a new one of those games in the way that they were. Not after stuff like Mario Odyssey has come out. I think it's going to be interesting to see whether or not it is one big continuous open world, or whether it is something more like Toast Arena from Mario Odyssey, where it's a big world, but it's one of many, or like the open zones in Sonic Frontiers.
Ooh,
yes, Chris.
Speaking, oh man, this was actually one I meant to write down, but didn't have like enough to go on with it. But speaking of Sonic Frontiers and thinking of Donkey Kong Bonanza, because that direct just happened earlier today as we're recording this, I'm okay if this game is 15 hours tops. I don't need this to be too bloated. I don't need like a 30-hour Spyro open world.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't need Spyro. To your point, you've said this before, Chris. I'm going to quote you here. The best of Spyro is that you can do it in an afternoon once you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't need it to be that short. Like to expand this, you need to go a bit bigger and have a longer game. But I like that I can go sit down and play Spyro 1 reasonably. Sonic Frontiers, like there's rumors that they're re-releasing that, and I'm like, man, that's a lot if I want to sit down and go through that game again, especially with like the skill trees, which this game might have. And it's just, I think I'd rather have a new Spyro that I want to come back to versus one I play and go, oh, that was cool, and then like for years after, I'm like, that's a lot to go back to, though.
Yeah, I don't want a Ubisoft map. I straight up don't want a Ubisoft map,
or at least like a small contained version of a Ubisoft map, right?
I think to that end, a lot of what I want out of this would be, if we assume that it's sort of like, open world-ish in terms of like, maybe it's not just one hub world per, there's 5 hub worlds and you go to each of the realms within the 5 hub worlds. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's one hub world with, spokes that take you to individual levels. Either way, I want there to be a way for you to tackle levels in any order you want within reason. I don't need it to be like you can do the last level first, but I think having that ability to pick which upgrades you get at the end of a level, in terms of, this, that level 1, gives you stamina and level 2 gives you a better fire, so you can then glide higher off of grass or whatever. Whatever those, features may be, I think one of the things that is interesting about how long a game like a Bonanza is that it's a linear game for the most part. Like you can do the individual objectives in any order, but you got to go down each and every layer. Odyssey's the same way. I'm fine with there being, like nodes where the first node, you can do any of those levels. The second, act, you can do any of those levels in whatever order you want. But I think I want this to be thoughtfully designed in such a way that you can tackle a lot of different options and give you some strong replayability while keeping the game short. I think that I want to be able to discover things about this game that are intentionally placed there a couple years later. I think that's a really cool, like that's one of the coolest things about a Breath of the Wild. And this is not going to be a Breath of the Wild, obviously, but like the fact that there are people still discovering and creating and figuring out things with that game's systems. If you're gonna make a potentially momentum based platformer, I really want to see you find ways to continue making that neat, because that's the coolest thing about the Spyro games, is that they almost always find ways to continue evolving a mechanic, even if it's an incredibly simple one. They will always iterate on it in a way that feels novel.
Yeah, thoughtfully designed is the perfect way to put that. I think that is what I most want out of all of this. Is I just want to feel like, yeah, like there was thought put into everything and like where everything is. I don't want to feel like they just took, the terrain brush on the flat surface and just started going nuts with it the way that a lot of these wilderness open world games.
But that's Stewart Copeland's music. You like that?
They pay him for that. I want to be able to, goes back to it. I want to be able to look at something in the distance. I want to not necessarily think, oh, I can literally fly right there, straight line A to B. I want it to be like, how am I going to use the level design and my move set? And it doesn't have to be that there's literally one solution. Like, we can get a little schmoove-mini with this, but like, I want there to be like, I have to think about the level design. I have to think about what I'm doing, because they thought about what they were doing. Yeah, more than anything, that is what I want out of this is that experience, that spatial reasoning experience.
You've given me another one off the top of my head here. I think I don't want the gem economy to explode. I think keeping it to a reasonable amount of gems in a level, probably you need a gem radar if it's a big open world sort of deal. I think that's fine to have something like that. You press the circle button and it's...
Only there was a character that did that.
Yeah, you press the circle button and maybe Sparks shows up and says, "Hey, I'm Daxter now." And Daxter tells you to, points an arrow, Crazy Taxi style. I think any of those things are useful in that sort of structure of a big open world map. But I don't want it to be, this level has 4,300 gems in it. They don't need to all be 100. I like that Spyro wasn't consistent with it because it made you stay on your toes. It kept you thinking, kept you looking. It kept you, like, if you saw a 400 gem level, you thought, wow, this is a big one. And I don't want it to be Banjo-Tooie where each gem is like a 25 gem and that's why it's 400. That feels like a waste.
Having a few of them here and there is nice because it feels special, but like don't overload it.
Yeah. And that goes back to thoughtful design as a macro point, really.
Yeah. I think in terms of gameplay, thoughtful design, just make it feel like, yeah, you really, really thought about where you put everything and how I was going to, as a player, interact with it, which is my most like optimistic point in all of this. Is it, again, we've only seen 4 seconds of this game, but from that 4 seconds, I kind of get the feeling that they're doing that. Right? Like, maybe it's just one really well-designed area and the rest is going to be shit. But like, I really think from that 4 seconds, I'm like, okay, I see where you're putting things. I see where you're putting gems. I understand how you're wanting me to get from point A to point B here. And like, it's cool. Don't f it up. This is cool. I don't think I have any more specific, like, straight up wants.
I do. I have one you'll agree with.
Yeah.
Skyboxes. They got to be good.
You know what? I honestly didn't even necessarily feel the super duper need to bring it up because
you just thought it was obvious, but you also say Reignited messed them up, so we got to say it in case they're listening to us. It's just a quick thing, right? It's like, at its best, the original games kind of had this ethereal dreamscape kind of quality sometimes, especially in the first game, and I would just like to feel that for a little bit at some point in this game. I'm an adult now. I know it's not, I don't have the childhood wonder, but I'd like to at some point just be like, man, this feels cool. Hi, Kevin.
I want there to be a level that's inside a mall.
Okay, I'm listening.
Just because I think Spyro with a liminal space would be a really interesting concept.
Yeah. Well, you
go play Enter the Dragonfly.
You look at the people, like, there's like a cottage industry of people who just like aesthetic post the original Spyro backgrounds all the time. Like there is like
that's where I got them all for our tier lists.
There is like a weird liminal space crossover with like the people who appreciate this stuff.
And Daxter can make comments and be like, "Oh, it's really dark in here, Spyro."
I hate Daxter.
Yeah.
But no, I do agree with you, Chris. I do agree with you that the skybox need to be good. My hope in that is that in Reignited, I do think that when they put their whole ussy into it, they were able to make some really nice skyboxes. I think where I didn't like it is where it felt like you could clearly see that they didn't have time, and they put like generic Unreal Engine cloudy sky. And it was so funny because Spyro 3 had all of these generic cloudy skies with like realistic clouds, but then you would go to Spyro 1 Stone Hill and it would be like the same vibe of sky, but it would be like, oh, they actually put effort into making the clouds look cartoony and things like that.
Yeah.
But if I think like Treetops iconic skybox, I like the Treetops skybox in Reignited.
Yeah.
I don't think it is a perfect match for what that level was. I think it does change the vibe, but as its own thing, I would not be like upset to see a skybox that looks like that appear in a new original game.
We don't need to go too deep on that. I was just I just wanted to touch on that.
I'll say I do have another point that you guys reminded me of, but I do want to say as far as like that sort of topic goes, it is one of those situations where I'm also understanding. I said this in the Spyro video that, you know, a Spyro remake of like Reignited is like visiting the old house you grew up in, where, you know, the furniture is maybe moved around slightly. They painted over the notches that they used to put, you know, on the doorway to measure your height. Those sorts of things, and it looks all different than when you're looking up at a table and you're 3 years old. I think a lot of that is what something like Reignited is, where it's not that they have missed the correct interpretation, it's that it's their interpretation. And you can faithfully reinterpret something in 45 different ways. Only exactly 45, though. There's not more than that.
Yeah. Science.
So I think that that's something to consider is, you know, in thinking of the human behind these projects. Seeing their own way of interpreting the future of Spyro is what we're saying here. That's really interesting. And so seeing their vision of like something like a swamp, like the treetops area, or, you know, the general hub, it was a different vibe. And I really liked that vibe because it was a cool interpretation that I hadn't considered when I played as a kid or as an adult. And there's something cool to being able to see from someone else's eyes. So I have hope and I have faith that they will be able to realize something as simple as a skybox in a way that's unique and interesting. I mean, just for example, you know, Ratchet and Clank skyboxes and the, you know, when you land, you have the vista in the background have always been a requirement within Insomniac over 25 years. And that went back to Spyro. Obviously, this is not the same team that's making it, but there are these certain things that are considered pillars of these franchises, and those things seem to genuinely carry over across generations of developers. And to that end, the thing that I would like to see, this is probably my last point here of our 9 that we've gotten through, definitely 9, exactly 9 points that we want to see in Spyro. I would like enemies that take specific tactics to defeat, not just sponges. One of the things that I really enjoy about Spyro 1, and to a lesser extent, but still there too, is that, you know, the enemies are not necessarily enemies, they are obstacles, and that you have to think about your moveset in a specific, unique way to take them down. That is some of the most interesting you know, Mario-style design to some degree that a platformer can have. And I've seen so many platformers in the modern era just decide to have Sonic 06 Shadow the Hedgehog combat for some reason, and I don't understand it. I don't need you to either dash into enemies or punch them 12 times. I know Spyro's done punching in some of the games. But I want there to be enemies that have metal shield chests that you have to ram them. I want enemies that have, you know, something, let's say you have an ice breath that you fire ice at the ground and it spins them around so you can hit them in the butt. I want there to be these unique ways to take down enemies, maybe not just one for each either. You know, maybe you do go a little systemic with it and you can create ways for the player to be surprised that things work that way.
Yeah, if I see melee combos and health bars, I might become a doomer again. I'm not gonna lie. Like
flow state is important to Spyro just as much as it is to a Sonic, and I think that that's an understated requirement of a lot of like good classic Spyro design, is that you should be able to finish most levels in an unbroken flow state, even if that means you are stopping to think. You are still in a flow state when doing so. Getting stopped and having to pause what you're doing to hit an enemy again and again, like that's why I don't care for Spyro bosses broadly, is they're kind of just hitting the, either it's chasing an enemy through a level, which is fine, or it's hitting an enemy a few times in a row, which is just kind of boring.
I hadn't even thought about bosses in this game yet.
I hadn't thought about it. I have thought about villains because they did say it's a brand new villain. But then there was also this vague rumor that there would be a returning one. I could very much see it being like a Crash 4 Cortex situation where Cortex is there, but he's not. I mean, no spoilers for that game, but he's not like the villain for that game for the most part. He's kind of alongside, helping kind of ish, but just there. I could see them doing that with like a Ripto or a Nasty Nork. That might be cool. I would be okay seeing Ripto kind of like take not an anti-hero turn, but like you aren't the biggest bad anymore kind of turn.
And maybe begrudging work together for a bit, classic trope, just because he's kind of the de facto villain, but there's not really anything to Ripto other than whining and sucking, which is funny, but...
it's very funny. I would like to see him around. I don't need him as the villain. I don't need him as like the big bad Bowser. But Bowser's always best when he's not the main villain anyway, right? So I feel like the same thing would go for Ripto. I think other than that, I just have like one tinfoil theory that I hope isn't real, but like I'm like, oh, this could be like maybe what they're doing. If all of these other signs are pointing to like mechanically trying to take these cues from Breath of the Wild, like there is a world, again, only because it is Toys for Bob, and only because
Ripto.
Oh God, no!
The Blood Moon reset. Ooh, okay.
The Blood Moon resets your gems too. You have to beat the whole game in one Blood Moon cycle, Majora's Mask style.
God, no! I was thinking like in the way that Breath of the Wild tries, and your mileage may vary on this, but tries to kind of be like, oh, it's at the end of all of the timelines, and they kind of converge on a point or whatever. I could maybe. Like, there's a non-zero chance I could see them doing, like, all the Spyros are canon, and this takes place in, like, a converged situation.
Especially
if not a
Stealth
multiverse thing. And especially Stealth Elf. Like, that's the thing, is I don't want to see I will tolerate Cinder. I don't want to see a single Skylander in this motherfucker.
Not even Stump Trump?
Not even him. I don't know. Not even the one that has a gun. Well, that has a gun that shoots coins.
Gigaton Hammer Bowser, you don't want him in the game?
None of that.
Not even in the Switch 2 version?
I think that'd be rad.
None of that.
I have a want.
Yeah.
Since we're at the end of this video and we've 100%ed our discussion, the one place I do want nostalgia, and this is like this is me as a kid speaking now. Spyro 2 is about Spyro trying to get back home, and at not one point in that game does he go back home. The super bonus round in that game for doing everything is like the weird amusement park thing.
He goes where he wanted to go the whole time.
Technically. Yeah, okay, you're right, actually, and I guess I'm a fake fan. Okay, but in this game, he's going to want to get home. I want the super bonus round to be in the Spyro 1 Artisan's World. That way, we at least have a reason. You go through the door. You go through the door from Reignited, and you're like, oh, here we are. That way you can put all your old characters in and nostalgia stuff, and it's the 100%
mini games there. Like, put all the bad shit there.
Shove it all there. Let Spyro like have a bit to be home. That works for me. If it's actually like a good reward and it's like has some fun gameplay stuff on top of it, even better. But that's where I want the nostalgia shoved to, because like you could. Hi, Kevin.
No, I had two other ideas. When you were done.
Okay. I was gonna say, because like you can do the old school Spyro, like portals take you to other levels anyway. Like you could technically you could do like a Sonic Frontiers and be like, this portal takes you to this one level from the old games, and now you're there, and then you come back into the main game. Like there's room for this stuff, I think, but I'd like that to be like a end game.
You're saying more of like a Mario Odyssey after the credits roll, go to Mushroom Kingdom kind of thing.
What if they make that DLC though, like in DK?
And it's a roguelike pick 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
What were your ideas, Kevin?
I have two other ideas. One, I would like enemies to moan when you hit them. And two, I think that Spyro's eyebrows should be a skin that you can swap out. Because why does he have ribbed eyebrows?
Like Jack's goatee.
I don't. Yeah, we didn't even touch on his design like at all. And it's like I think he looks a little weird
and hope for the design to change.
No, I think he looks a little weird, but not enough to make me like super duper complain about it. But it is like a little bit like, why did you do some of that?
It's just the eyebrows to me, because like, why do you have rock-shaped eyebrows? Like, why are they carved like that?
It's the pupil sizes for me more than anything.
There's no way for me to say this without bad wording, but I'm going to be seeing him from the back most of the time anyway, so I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, ultimately I don't think I care.
But it does look weird.
Why are his hard scales like at the top of his head? Why is it coiffed? Why is it coiffed like it's like hair that can move like that?
Because he's kicking rad now, man.
Why does it do that?
I have one more. I mean,
there are dragon beards, so like dragon hair makes sense.
I think we stun launched Brody.
Rizzler in Spyro. Rizzler's Rage. Rizzler
no, I was just thinking about how that's really going to play for the audio.
Rizzlo. No, we're just doing the Rizzler face. Don't worry. Audio, if you felt rizzed just now, that conveyed.
Ooh, the mall can be a Costco. Spyro can go to Costco.
Oh. We're Spyro guys. Of course we're going to complain about the music for 20 minutes. Boom! Boom! My last one. I want a Moneybags idle clicker game, business simulation tycoon. It could be like Adventure Capitalist. Make it in like a week. I don't care. I'll play that instead of like Spyro 4.
Moneybags Real Deal Baseball, where he's like, yeah, they took the kids.
Right, he has a nephew.
Like Moneybags being broke.
He has a family.
Crazy.
Okay, yeah. Rusty's Real Deal Baseball, but with Moneybags, and he has like 8 nephews now, and they're all like, "Oh, Uncle, Unc, you're so Unc-coded. We need money. We need gems." And he's
I do need this sort of dialogue in the game.
Yeah. Hunter to be like, "Whoa, you're cooked, Spyro."
They're just calling him Unc and flossing the whole time.
You know, Hunter would be the character that I would accept that from, actually. If Hunter was saying that stuff, I'd be like, you know what? Sure.
The scavs are straight mugging you, Spyro. Scavs are what the enemies are called in Spyro 4, if you didn't know. Or at least the people there. We read the press release, don't worry. We know what we're talking about.
I think to sum it up, I'm tentatively excited. I think I'm more positive than I am anything else, even if it might not come across that way. From everything I'm saying, but I just, obviously this is a series that I care about quite a lot. It is exciting after 20 years getting a genuine new game within the original continuity, as far as we know. They haven't said otherwise, so
they sure are being vague with everything they say.
They sure are being really kind of weirdly vague.
I think they just don't want it to be considered Spyro 4. I think they want it to be a new thing, because if it's Spyro 4, it has to be the same thing but more. I think it's just, hey, we saw how Crash 4 went, and it would have been better if we just called it Crash Bandicoot It's About Time, because Crash 4 selling on nostalgia, obviously it worked. It sold pretty well. And also it sets up the expectation that you have to play 1 through 3 first, which, to be fair, with that game, you should, because that's just the hard mode Kaizo Crash Bandicoot, according to a lot of people.
That both benefited them in the sense of, I had people be like, wow, they can make one as good as the old ones, actually. They kind of earned that for, but then there's also a lot of expectation with that number.
Yeah.
Well, and what does a Spyro 4 look like? Like, all 3 games are pretty fundamentally different at points.
Yeah. And that's why I'm like ultimately okay with that they're trying something new. I think it all goes back to the Breath of the Wild, where that game was able to take what was like the core fundamental bit of Zelda and do something bigger and more ambitious with it, but still retain that core. And we are seeing the bigger and more ambitious, right? That is clear. That is very much here. It is being able to do that while retaining that core. That is the question. That is like, are they going to be able to pull that off? Are they even trying to pull that off?
Do they want to?
It would be nice. It would be very nice to see if they could go more ambitious and still have it feel like this is the logical progression, as opposed to this is a wildly different direction.
It is interesting because we don't hold like Mario to that standard. Like, Mario can change wildly from game to game, and we're like, yeah, cool. But then with any other platformer series besides Mario, we want it to be exactly the same as the first one we played. Food for thought. Boost Spyro. That's what I want.
Boost Spyro. Yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, all I really feel like I can ask for, maybe this is really all I can ask for after 20 years, is I want a game that I would at least rather play more than Enter the Dragonfly and Hero's Tale. It doesn't have to be better than 1 to 3. It would be nice if it was, but I want something that I would at least rather play more than Enter the Dragonfly and Hero's Tale.
Sets the bar on the floor. As long as it's better than that.
Hey, every other Spyro game doesn't clear that bar.
You haven't even played Legend of Spyro, Brody. You don't
I
know.
played the first one.
You didn't play the phone
sucked.
version of the GBA games, idiot.
You didn't play Spyro, Skylander, Trap Team, Jersey Club Remix. What are these called? Trap Team?
Fake fan.
If you want to see 32 hours of Chris and Brody talk about Spyro levels from every game in the series besides the ones they haven't yet done, go to patreon.com/crub and join for as little as $5 a month to the video tier. You can get just about everything that we have. I mean, you do get everything we have in video form. You can also join at the audio tier and get every piece of audio bonus content, including the Podcastamon series, where myself, Chris, and our third Justin, when he is there, are watching every episode of the Pokemon anime. We have gone through at least 250 episodes by this point between it and Horizons, which is only 1% of the show. So tune into that. We have so many hours of wonderful discussions just like this, maybe better.
Probably have a Spyro Realm Beyond spoiler cast when that comes out.
Yeah, make sure to subscribe for a Spyler the Dragon discussion.
Scalar X Spyro.
Yeah, Spyler's going to be the new guy. He's my OC.
They should put Scalar in the game.
So make sure to subscribe to Crub if you haven't yet already. If you're an hour in, you should be subscribed, or else I don't like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Screw you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're all right.